And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. So in the final days of his budget battle with the legislature, Governor Cuomo threatened lawmakers with the shutdown versus extender bills option, saying that he felt completely comfortable that he would win in the court of public opinion. As it turns out, he was right. Today's Siena poll shows New Yorkers by a large 67 to 27% margin would have preferred to see the legislature pass Cuomo's budget in an extender bill en masse, if it could not be even if it could not be amended at all, than to opt for shutting down the government. A whopping 90% said an on-time budget is very important. Now, talking to me now is Steve Greenberg. Thanks very much. He is the spokesman for the Siena New York poll. It's good to see you.
Good to be here.
You know what's really remarkable here is that Governor Cuomo is favorably viewed by 69% of voters and unfavorably viewed by 20%. That's down.
Down a little bit, but it's still a 3.5 to 1 favorability rating.
Huge. Unbelievable. I mean, he was at 77-16, and that's stratospheric.
Right.
Usually around this time, what we would see is people hating the governor because of all these incredible ads that were running against him.
And that's the key. I mean, it's not the budget debate that usually brings governors down.
Right.
It is the fact that there are these commercials in past years, whether it was against Pataki, Spitzer, Patterson. This year there were really no commercials beating the governor up. You had NYSET and some others running commercials in support of the millionaire's tax, which voters overwhelmingly support, but was not included in the budget. But those ads didn't beat up the governor.
No, they didn't beat him up, but yet his biggest drop in favorability, as you note, is voters younger than 35, conservatives, blacks, which we'll get back to, voters earning less than $50,000 a year. So, and because, couple that with the continued strong support for the millionaire's tax, which, as you note, isn't in the budget, and you can see that someone somewhere along the line made an impact on the governor, this budget disproportionately, they say, hurting poor people.
Absolutely, and I think the young people is a reflection probably on the education cut. You know, it's voters under 35 who are most likely to have kids either in the schools or preparing to have kids in schools. They're concerned most about education aid, not the folks 55 and older.
Right.
And I think that probably did have an effect. When you look at young people, last month, 75-20 favorability rating for Cuomo, now 58-31. Still very good, but way down. I mean, down 17 points on the favorability side.
You know, I don't get the conservatives, though. What's up with that?
I'm not sure what the conservative number is, and these are self-identified conservatives. He didn't actually drop very much among Republican voters, so it was really the much more conservative members of the Republican Party where he dropped. But I think it's interesting in terms of the young people. Andrew Cuomo has never done as well with young voters, either as Attorney General, as a candidate for governor, and now as governor, as he does with the older folks, the 55 and older crowd. And I don't know what the rationale is.
Yeah, but you know what's really great for him about that? Young people don't vote as much.
That's exactly right, and I think that's why he doesn't care as much.
You know, it's also interesting. There's a lot of talk today based on this cover story from New York Magazine that came out, and it's like Cuomo the Gamer, and it talks about how he managed to get really a historic win so far with the budget. I mean, it's not yet been passed. We haven't seen the bills. Devil's in the details, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But sorry, that's my shorthand version of
I'm with you.
et cetera. It's Monday. So the thing is, though, he's being talked about already as a potential presidential candidate. Not in 2012, but most likely in 2016, if at all. It's a long way off now. But yet I have had some people on the left, the people in the Democratic Party, who are very upset and say he's losing us. He's losing that base. Even if he does gay marriage, even if he does you know, some other things, he didn't go to town on collective bargaining the way he might have. He's no Scott Walker, for example. But if he loses the left, he would be hard-pressed to win a Democratic presidential primary. That would be problematic.
But that's a presidential primary that's at least 5 years away.
Yeah, I know.
There are going to be 1.5 million things that happen between now and then. Look, when you're in the first year of a term, that's when you can upset your base. And as you move closer to the next election, that's when you bring your base back in. So he will have no problem bringing the left back in if in a gubernatorial reelection in 3 years, or even in a presidential primary race potentially, if he succeeds as governor in New York. If he can turn this state around or demonstrate that he was responsible for this state turning around and moving forward again, whether you're on the left or the right, he will be in a very strong position. But that's a lot of big ifs between now and then.
True. You know, so there are some amazing things also about this poll. For example, we noted the millionaires tax, very strong support. Shelley Silver says, you know, I'm not done trying to push this through. Maybe next year, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back. But things that are not in the budget, there's support for. Med-mal cap is not in there. Yeah, it's close, 53-42, but still a desire to see more money restored to education than $270 million.
That's, you hit on two of them right there. To me, that's the amazing thing about Andrew Cuomo's favorability rating, which is that people like him. People trust him far more than they trust the legislature to do the right thing for New York in the budget. But they disagree with him on two of the largest items that have been debated for the last month, the millionaires tax and the cut in education. 50% of voters say what's being restored in this budget is not enough. They want more money restored to education. They want a smaller cut than is even going to wind up happening. Yet, despite that, they still like Andrew Cuomo and they still support him.
And they wanted someone. I think that the thing is that we had a history of a lack of leadership in this state, right? We had a power void that was left by Eliot Spitzer, David Patterson, even though...
And the final years of Pataki.
Sure, very true, because he was running for president at that time, for all intents and purposes. David Patterson, even though his legacy is this amazing extender situation that we have now, that Governor Cuomo threatened and managed not to have to use, but, you know, the voters, even though they might be more ideologically aligned with the legislature and the legislature's policy positions, they nevertheless wanted someone to just ride herd over them and pull this state into line.
That's right. And they don't entirely embrace the legislature because the legislature doesn't have a single ideological view. You have Dean Skelos with one ideological view and Shelley Silver with another. They converge on an issue, let's say, like education. But I think the voters, you're right, they wanted leadership, and they know how, can I say this, screwed up in the voters' minds the legislature is, how dysfunctional state government has been. So when you have Andrew Cuomo coming in and appearing to bring order to disorder, voters like that.
You know, and even some rank-and-file lawmakers have said to me, he's doing things very professionally. There's an adult in charge, finally. We really are grateful for that. Do we love what he's doing? No. Do we like being scared to death of the guy? No. However, there is this one thing, and we're running out of time. I just want to touch on it briefly. Upstate voters move back to being decidedly negative on the direction of the state. This is potentially bad news.
Yeah, I mean, last month, for the first time in 3.5 years, we had a majority of New York voters saying the state was headed on the right track as opposed to being in the wrong direction. That was a milestone. And it happened largely because upstate voters last month were sort of even. 44% thought the state was moving in the right direction, 42% thought we were on the wrong track. Upstate has retracted on that. So downstate is still optimistic about the direction of the state, but now upstate, 36% of upstate voters think we're on the right track. 53% say we're headed in the wrong direction. The real question, I think, for Andrew Cuomo, for the legislature going forward is, after they enact this budget, after the public has a chance to digest it, we'll go back in the field next month and take a look and see how do voters react to the legislature and the governor in light of this budget.
Oh, well, very good. But we'll be seeing you before then for Insiders, I'm sure. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Steve. It's good to see you.
You too.